evening, everyone.
Okay, sir.
I hope you can all hear me.
We can, I think so.
Good evening,
Yeah.
I've got you loud and clear.
Oh, Kiran, how are you?
Very good, thank you. Very good.
Good to have you here with us. Okay, definitely everyone can hear me. All right, we've been trying to just delay the meeting a little bit so that we can have more people coming in. But as it is, I think because we might have a lot to discuss tonight, so I think they will. Well, I believe more people will still be coming in, but because of our time, we only have maximum 2 hours to do this meeting tonight. And like I've said around as well, that it is an opportunity for the Black community to ask some questions and to understand some things, especially why they need to vote. It is an important exercise, and it is something that we must do. So this is why we have arranged this meeting tonight. And anyway, let me stop there. But before I go on, I would like to introduce myself as usual when we are having a meeting like this. So it's always good to understand what we are doing, and it's always good to understand and to know who is hosting, who the people that are hosting. Anyway, my name is Tolashe Jayoba. A lot of people prefer to call me Mr. T, and I will be your host tonight. And I will also be hosting with you with two other colleagues of mine. One is a usual person on this forum, and tonight we are having another guest host. I will come to that. So, like I said, this is Mr. T talking, and I'm representing a community organization called Community Issues and Concerns, where we bring we look at issues that are affecting the community, and we bring it into a meeting like this and inviting different people from different backgrounds to have a discussion on the issues. And from there, we'll be able to, provide solution to the issue. So tonight is about July 4th. And not just July 4th, it's July 4th. It's also going to be beyond July 4th. Because before I go on that, I think I'm jumping too much. Let me also introduce to you my co-host, Dr. Ati. Are you here with us? Dr. Ati?
I'm here. Good evening, everybody.
Right. Good evening.
Good evening.
All right. Let me also quickly introduce to us our guest host, a very lovely person, lovely individual, somebody that I respect him a lot as well. Is an excellent person, excellent individual, very lovely and very perfect. I'm talking of the person of Mr. Maurice Olam. Hello, Maurice. Are you here? I believe you're here.
I can't believe I was thinking, who is this you're introducing? Wow, I appreciate that. I really appreciate that.
That's you. That's you.
We'll figure out what we're doing.
No, any other person.
Yes, that's me, Maurice Oloma. Appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. So at some point, we'll be handing over to you. We want to make this as much as interactive as we can. Then again, what we have done tonight, we invited two candidates. We invited somebody from Conservative Party, and we also invited somebody from Labour. So we invited Andy from Labour Party, and we also invited Kiran Fothergill. But I'm not sure if Andy is here, but let me just start by introducing our guests. I would say guest speakers, yes, because most of our questions will be directed to them, and they will be telling us things that we need to know, yeah, and why we need to vote for them come this Thursday, July 4th. So I'm happy to introduce to us on this platform right now, Mr. Kiran Fothergill. Mr. Kiran.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for Ati, thank you very much for hosting.
Hello.
This is wonderful to be here, and of course to Maurice as well. Thank you for being a co-host. So, should I take this opportunity now, Mr. T, to introduce myself, or should I do that later? I follow your lead.
We'll come back to that later.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, could I just ask that we just
All right.
give the next 5 minutes, because I see people are also trying to come in, and sometimes people are just coming back from work. So if we just give them a little time, if we add a bit, this is about 15:15. So if we give like 20 past-ish, so we can have
Okay.
more people, then we can just, speak to people, give them a little bit of, not
Yeah.
rules, just
But
homilies.
while we'll be waiting, I think we can continue to do the introduction, because I don't know if Andy is here.
I'm not sure if it's here yet. Yeah, that's
Okay.
why.
Not yet. No.
Not yet. Yeah.
Okay.
There's a possibility that he may not be here just because of time. Because we did speak to Kaviye and he said he's so busy, right? So if he doesn't come, unfortunately, Kiran will have all the questions to answer by himself.
It's going to be the man for today.
It's going to be
I hope we are ready.
the man to take all the questions tonight if he doesn't show up. But, well, we hope he comes. But if he doesn't, then Kiran will have to take the questions. The reason why we're putting this together is just for people to be able to ask questions. Some people are already disillusioned. They don't want to participate in elections anymore. Some of them feel disenfranchised. So this is an opportunity again for people to be encouraged to vote, and they want to also know what our candidates plan, how their tenure will be, So a lot of questions and a lot of answers to give.
Yes. So, but before we come to that, we'll give the speakers the opportunity to also, tell us about themselves,
Yep.
a bit of history, why they decide to go for the positions they want to go for, and why should people vote for them, and if there are other plans that they've got for us, for the community. And we also use the opportunity to share that. I don't know, before we invite Mr. Kiran, I don't know if Morris has anything to quickly add in the next 1 or 2 minutes, just because 3 of us will be handling this the issue today. So, yeah.
Where did you get Morris? Morris is one hell of a busy person. Where did you get him? Where did you find him?
I know how to get people out of wherever they are hiding.
I'm even surprised. I'm seeing Ray here. My goodness, I haven't seen him in a decade.
Yes, that's the big man.
Yes, I just
call him big man.
yes, thank you.
Yeah. I
just
don't know. I think
I just came yesterday. I traveled, so
yeah, it's been a
it's
way.
good to see everybody.
Yeah, thank you.
No,
All right, Morris, you wanted to say something?
yes, I'm not going to mention about the how you held me on the wall, pinned me on the wall, and forced me to do this. Right? Anyway, no. I think this is absolutely crucial. It's very important for us to connect with potential or future leaders or potential leaders. And the key thing, as I said, is always it's not just what you're going to do, but it's also a measure of the track record. I think generally speaking, it's as a cliche, politicians always say this is what I'm going to do when you get me in the office, but we kind of want that traction. We don't want you to sell it to us so much. We want to kind of let it sell itself. Let's see what have you done in the last 2-3 years so that it warrants us to kind of, this is just an affirmation of what's going to happen rather than this is, once you elect me, this is what I'm going to do. So I think it's important for us to have that continuity all the way. events like this kind of will help with that process. We want that. I think Ati mentioned about the disengagement, the kind of, people are giving up. So we want to make sure that it's a continuous flow, it's a continuous process, not just a few days before the elections or just, peaks and troughs. So yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, Maurice. So, like Dr. Arti said, we are not sure if Andy McDonald is going to be coming into this forum, but in case he comes, yes, we'll be happy to have him. But while we wait for him, I think we can start proper. This is 6:21. So if I invite Mr. Kieran, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
All
I can
right.
see
So please, what do you have for us? Who are you? We'd like to meet you. We'd like to know who you are. We'd like to understand everything about you and tell us everything that
very
you would
much.
like.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity, Mr. T, Ati Maurice, to speak to you today. I know some of you from being out and about in the last few weeks and months. I will give you a little bit of an overview first of my background, who I am, and I'll tell you a little bit about the constituency, Middlesbrough and Thornaby East. I'll give you a little bit of the background on politics here, where we are in Teesside. And then I'll tell you about my plan and what I think I can do for us. And I would just, yeah, so that's the plan. So first of all, myself, I was born in Middlesbrough. My name's Kieran Fothergill. I was born in Middlesbrough in 1994, just turned 30. My father is English. He's from Middlesbrough. And my father's family have been from Middlesbrough for generations. My mother's family were immigrants to this country from India originally, India and then Fiji. They came to this country in the 1950s. My mother was first generation immigrant to this country. I understand what that story means and how hard her family, my grandparents, had to work in order to give her the opportunities that they were able to. I studied at the University of Oxford for my undergraduate degree, and then I went back to Oxford to do a Master in Business Administration. And that's really where my professional life has been, always in business. I'm brand new to politics. I haven't stood for the MP position before, and I think that does give me a fresh perspective. We can come on to that. But fundamentally, at my core, I'm a businessman. What is that business? It's engineering. Our business has been in the same place in Stockton for 170 years. I'm the 6th generation of my family business in Teesside to run the business. We have 650 employees around the country in 17 offices. And our group of companies turns over about £100 million a year. And it is the lifeblood of many families here in Stockton and Middlesbrough and across the UK. We're very proud of what we do, and we have a great record as employers on Teesside and further afield. But more than anything else, I think it's really important to get across to you that I love this area. And the reason that I've decided to run to be the Member of Parliament for Middlesbrough and Thornaby East is because I'm just fed up of going down to the town centre and seeing the state of decline, the managed decline under 50 years of Labour dominance in Middlesbrough. I think we can do so much better. We can do so much better. And as you can see, across Teesside, we've made progress. We've made progress in Redcar. We've made progress in Stockton. We've made progress in Darlington. The place that we haven't made progress is Middlesbrough. And that is because we've had Labour in charge of Middlesbrough since 1974, uninterrupted. Labour MPs from 1974 to 2024. At least the maths is easy, 50 years. And we have a Labour-run council. We have people who are financially illiterate. We have people who make, in positions of power, who make bad decisions, who don't look at long-term time horizons. And I think we need better quality people. And that's why I put myself forward for this role. We have an MP in Andy MacDonald, who is who's been our MP for 12 years. He's coming up to his 70th birthday soon, and he lacks the energy. He lacks the ability now, I think, to take us forward. I ask you all, where are his ideas? What has he put forward? What has he achieved? I would say that he could have done much better. He's worked against Ben Houchen, the mayor, who's done a brilliant job bringing jobs and investment to Teesside. He's worked against him at every opportunity, and that's why Middlesbrough hasn't prospered and progressed in the same way that other places in Teesside have. So that's what I bring: financial literacy, energy, fresh ideas, and a fresh voice. What have I been doing so far? I'm really fortunate to have met a number of the Black and ethnic minority community in Middlesbrough and Thornaby. Particularly, I've enjoyed my time, particularly with the Nigerian community, and I see some friendly and familiar faces on this call, which is really comforting. And I think I'm going to come on to this later on, but I think my family story, my understanding of business, my understanding that your community wants opportunity and respect. I understand that. I can see very well qualified people, engineers, businessmen back home, people with skills in finance who come to this country and pay a lot of money to come to this country, who want the opportunity that they could have at home, and they deserve that opportunity because they're intelligent and above all, they're hardworking. They don't want to be given handouts. They want opportunity and respect, and they want to do better for their families. And that's why what I propose to do is to put together, and this is where I think my skill set is well suited to the needs of your community. I propose putting together an investment type vehicle, perhaps a VC type fund, to help entrepreneurs who are from the Nigerian community in particular, but the Black and ethnic minority community in Teesside and Middlesbrough, to get them to start businesses. So it can be grants, it can be help, it could be mentoring, it could be navigating the complicated British system sometimes. I know sometimes that's all it is. It's what forms do I fill out? How do I do this? How can I do this? So that's what I propose to do. And I want to see as many business owners as possible developed in the next 5 years, because that is the lifeblood of our community, and that is how we progress with our families. And that's what I understand. I understand employment, jobs. I understand hard work. That's what I'm all about. And I'd like to introduce two people who have joined me, fortunately, on this call today to talk, who I know very well. One friend called Prince Nnamdi who's joining us from Lagos. I know him from my MBA days. And another very good friend of mine, Noi Amabo, from the Ghanaian community. He joins me from London, but lives in Accra. Noi was actually with me on Sunday in Middlesbrough, knocking on doors and at the church. So I want to introduce these two gentlemen because they know about my plans, and it would be useful, I think, for you to hear about what I want to do from them, because they're helping me. Noi, the Prince, if you go first, please.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Unfortunately, I'm at the airport, so it might be a bit noisy, but I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so yes, so my name is Prince Nnamdi. I'm the CEO of a company called Konga. Konga is one of the largest e-commerce companies out in Nigeria. We do everything from e-commerce marketplace to logistics, to payments, to distribution and wholesale. And recently we've gotten into the travel industry as well. So I met Karen during my time at Uphold doing my MBA. Great guy, very ambitious, and he has a lot of plans. You know, there's a big difference between a career politician and somebody who has a business mind that goes into politics. And what we see is that person that comes with a business mind comes with a very clear objective in terms of what you want to achieve, and a very clear path in terms of how we're going to achieve that. And that's what I see in this young fella here. And how we connected is there's a big across the entire UK. There's a big Nigerian community. Funny enough, I was born in London. My family were immigrants. They moved from Nigeria before I was born, and they gave birth to me in London. But we moved back to Nigeria because things were so bad when I was about 6 years old. And look, to God be the glory. It was a success story for us moving back to Nigeria. But maybe not everybody has that same opportunity. So the idea is, how do you provide a good platform for Nigerians or Africans in general that have left the continent to come into the UK? So it's very noisy because they're watching a football match behind me. But how do you find a platform for Africans that have left Africa and can come to the UK and create a path for success for this kind of people? And Karen has a lot of interesting ideas on how to do it. How do you create business platforms? How do you empower entrepreneurs or African entrepreneurs within the UK? How do you create strategic relationships with companies like mine, with Nigeria, to provide platforms for people? Even if you want to leave the UK and come back to Nigeria, there could be a soft landing in you coming back into Nigeria or wherever else in Africa. These are the kind of initiatives I'm seeing, and that's why I decided to join this call to lend my voice and show support to some of these initiatives.
Thank you very much, Prince. We think we've got a question from Sam before we maybe move on. Thank you, Prince. Is there a question? There's a hand up. Sam, is that you?
Before we start asking people, before we go on to that, you mentioned someone else, Noi?
Oh yeah, Noi. Do you want to say a few things?
So because we still want everybody, it's going to come to question and answer time.
Okay.
So definitely we'll give everybody.
Yeah, of course.
chance.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Mr. T, and happy to be joining the call. I think I also do a quick background. So I'm from Ghana, as Kieran mentioned. There are a few Nigerians on the call, so I don't think I'll get into the Jollof debate now. But I grew up in London, and I go back to Ghana as often as possible. I did my undergrad studies in the US, moved to Ghana for a year before coming back to the UK to do my master's, and that's where I met Kieran at Oxford University. For me, I'm very passionate about Africa. I think that is shown in my past experiences, my extracurricular activities at business school, and I think I've been fortunate to have had a lot of great experiences that I know others in my position would excel or do even better. So I do everything in my power to bridge that gap, and this is something I connected with Kieran about. For the past year, I was working in Tunisia at a venture capital fund supporting African entrepreneurs that had businesses which achieved a certain scale. So in the entrepreneurship space, for those of you know, it's Series A and beyond. And it was a really good time. I was learning but not having the impact I wanted, because a lot of earlier stage startups were instantly discarded. So I'm now looking to do something a bit more direct. I'm joining a startup on the other side of the table that connects African freelancers in Ghana, Nigeria, South Africa, and Kenya to the global economy. So that's just a bit about me. And I think for me, what struck me about Kieran was maybe firstly his instant knowledge of the continent from a cultural and a business perspective. So there are not many, people who know about high life artists such as Daddy Lumba or even the local beers, star or club. So instantly there was just that, way to relate. And then I think the second thing would probably be his extensive network, and he's always willing to tap into that and bring others from irrespective of background if he sees there can be shared growth. So through Kieran, I'm friends with Prince, who spoke earlier, a Jamaican, Colombian, South African, Korean. The list goes on, and I think that's something rather special. And then the last thing will probably just be, authenticity. I think Kieran really cares about individuals, and that shows through his authenticity. I've been fortunate enough to spend some time with, his family, and I think this is where that all stems from. He gave his background earlier, and it's quite unorthodox, which is, I think, shaped his worldview. And I think I can wholeheartedly say that, votes aside, he will keep on checking in and making sure, the community is doing as best as it could. And over the course of time, he'll make sure to check on the progress, and see how things are going. So for me, that's why this was a no-brainer to join the call and sort of say my perspective from a friendship point of view, but also just a full endorsement as a Ghanaian that's grown up in the UK. So that's just a bit about me and my engagements with Kieran. And I think I'll hand the floor either back to you, Mr. T, or.
Thank you very much, Noi. So I'll hand the baton over to Dr. Ati, then she can just cross it over to Mr. Morris. So Dr. Ati, if are you here?
Yeah, Kieran.
Yes.
Kieran was talking to us about himself. If you're just joining us, Kieran just introduced himself and introduced some of his friends that know him and have been colleagues of his as well. So Kieran will move on to tell us a little bit more about the other side of things. He's just talked to us about who he is. He's just introduced himself. He's talked to us just a little bit about why he wants to go for this position. And now we will go back to Kieran again and, really talk to him about what he has for us and why anybody here or around the community should, vote for him. Is Kieran here with me? I can hear some background noise.
I'm here. Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah. So Kieran, do you want to go over and tell us a little bit about what we would expect from you?
Absolutely, happily. So I'd have a dedicated member of my team as a liaison officer working specifically with your community. So that is a guarantee. So that is one person contactable, always working on my team as a full-time employee, working with your community on any issues that you might face. So I think it's important to distinguish between what an MP does, member of parliament, who's in the national parliament in the UK, and a councillor. So the local councillors are there to administer council tax, and administer spend essentially in order to provide facilities day to day, bin collection, park maintenance, road repairs, etc., health provision. The MP's job is to legislate on national issues, defence, taxation, foreign policy, immigration policy, for example. So what I can say is that I will make sure that I bridge the two. So I will speak up on issues about immigration, particularly the issue that concerns me very deeply, that there are often cases now, well, the Conservative government, I mean, my party's government, but it's not my view. It's what Rishi Sunak has decided to do, which I disagree with. The Conservative government has decided that it's making it very difficult for people to bring their families when they come to work in this country. I think that is terrible. And I would forcefully advocate against that. I think if you're coming to work in this country legally, of course, you should be able to bring your families with you. That's a no-brainer. I can make sure that I'll speak up sensibly on immigration. Also on illegal immigration, I think we need to stop the boats. I think people come here legally and they pay good money to be here and they contribute, they pay tax. They are good people, they cause no trouble, and they contribute to our society. They enrich our society culturally. That's fabulous. I also think this country needs to be hard on illegal immigrants, because that's not the right way to come here. We need to make the asylum process easier from abroad so that people don't risk their lives coming across the channel. But I also think, there is only so much this country can take from a infrastructure point of view. If you look at our health service, our housing service, when it comes to illegal immigration. So that's my position there. It's certainly not open borders, but it's to treat the people that are here legally with respect to them and their families, and to give them assistance because they contribute so much to our society. So I will speak up sensibly on immigration. and be a reliable voice for your community. I can promise that I will have someone liaising with the local issues, the council and the councillors on local issues where you may have problems, whatever those might be. And I can also, as an individual, say that I will give my time to mentor and to help people who want to get into business and even into politics. I think, we've seen with John, Councillor John, it's fabulous that we've got the first Black councillor on Middlesbrough Council. He's a Labour man. He seems like a very, very nice man. And I think that's proof that it's all about the individual at the end of the day. Labour, Conservative, it doesn't matter. If you've got the person with the right values representing the community, that's important. So I can certainly look at pathways for people that want to get involved in what I'm doing to come through as well. So I think steadfast, contactable, reliable, someone who will be there at the community level, at the national level, to be a strong advocate. And as I say, in terms of my big thinking, my big ideas, I want my legacy to be in 5 years' time. If I'm elected, I want to be able to point to a number of successful entrepreneurs, small business owners from the community that I've allowed or enabled to progress because of the structures and systems and vehicles that I put in place. So I think that's what I want to do, big thinking, and I'd love to get your thoughts on all of that. But I'm really excited about the opportunity to work hard.
Thank you, Kieran. Before I hand over to Maurice, if he has any question, you talked a little bit about your background. You said you're from business background, and you mostly said you will support mostly in the business area. So can you just elaborate a little bit on that? How people will, benefit from your time, if they are in business?
Sure. So I think there's a number of schemes available and grants schemes available, perhaps not as many in Middlesbrough, which is one thing I'd like to work on. But I'd like to make sure that there is access for the Black community to those schemes in particular. I want to widen those schemes. I want to put more money into those schemes and then make them accessible. And I will oversee that process. So, simple example, someone comes with a business plan, with an idea, and then it's a case of taking that plan and working with the individual, the group of individuals, and making it and making sure the funding is there in place at each stage of the business plan to see it develop and flourish and thrive. And my expertise is in seeing that process through and making sure that the that the resources are available, both in terms of helping putting the financial help in place, but also from a strategy perspective, because I think navigating the British system for people that have come to this country, haven't grown up in this country, is difficult. I mean, if I went to Nigeria, for example, or Ghana, and tried to start a business, I wouldn't know what to do necessarily. I wouldn't know who to speak to. It's difficult. It's complicated. Just these are different places, not because we can't do it or I'm not capable or you're not capable. It's not about that. Sometimes it's about just understanding how things work. And I would want to work with established and existing business owners in your community to make sure that we've got structures where there's help, there's a network, there's allyship. We're helping each other. And that's what I want to put in place. And as I say, I've spoken to Prince, my friend who introduced himself earlier, who works in this world, and who knows the UK. The same with Moy, who works in VC, who understands investment. And I want to work with these guys and the community on the Zoom call tonight to sit down and say, how do we do this? Because this is big thinking. And too often we, as politicians, we say, oh, we're going to do this, or we're going to do that, or we say things that people want to hear, but then we don't actually put anything in place. This is big policy making, big thinking, and we're going to actually do something pretty impressive, and it will resonate, and it will only get bigger. Exactly what you've done, Ati. Exactly what you've done, Mr. T, with your community concerns group, which is just phenomenal. Look how it's grown. Why can't we do the same in business? So that's my business angle, but that's not to forget the other things. You know, that's not to forget the antisocial behavior that I want to tackle, the crime, the racism. Look, I'm half Indian. You know, even though I was born in the James Cook Hospital and my family business is in Stockton, I experienced that. I knock on doors all day, every day. I work, you know, my hours are crazy and I speak to thousands of people. And I unfortunately I experience racism myself. So I get it. And I want to make sure that we start with the education of the British people and we try and eradicate this. So few questions I can see. Maybe I should hand it back over.
Okay, no problem. We'll come to question and answer session. Is Maurice still there? Maurice, go on. Maurice, you're on mute. Have you got any questions or should I carry on?
I've got a question. I don't know if we should let Maurice speak first. I've got a question that I want to ask the gentleman who was speaking just now.
Okay.
Is it the right time?
Question and answer session will come, but this is
all right. Okay.
just trying
Yeah.
to.
Okay.
This
Yeah,
is just
I'm
trying.
loud and clear. Can you all hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Excellent. No, first things first, Kieran, a lot of the things that you mentioned are very close to me in terms of just the business angle. I advocate for businesses. I am always trying to support the community in terms of getting Black people into business and the strategies that are in place, the networking that's available. So I am keen to probably to listen to you elaborating a lot more on that. The areas around high growth, the VC side, you know, educating individuals about the processes of raising funding, you know, and also the support network around that. Because it's one thing to say to somebody, oh, there's £1 million up for grabs. Chances are they won't get it until they meet certain criteria. So it's that journey, it's that connection with the community, it's being in that environment where you can obviously have a one-to-one with individuals or panels. And I am for that 100%. Mr. T, Ati, and the rest know that I always come in and push for that. And I'm here also in the capacity as the chair of a new KIC, community interest company called Africa Connect Network. And one of the ethos, when we were doing the constitution, one of them was about businesses, trying to bring business leaders together and trying to create opportunities for our generation, our future generations, in terms of mentorship opportunities, in terms of placement opportunities, in terms of work experience opportunities. So it's that connection. It's fantastic to say this is what you're going to do, but I think we need to break it down in terms of how, when, you know, time scales, how you're going to engage, how we're going to measure the impact of that, the individuals you're going to use to try and achieve this task. And we're here, we want that. For me, one of the measures is how many Black people are in business, but also what type of businesses they're in. And also look at things like continuity, generational wealth. We want to, you mentioned there, it's sixth generation. Some of us, when it comes to the Black community and businesses, they don't look beyond them. Once something happens to them, it's how, helping, assisting with that process, carrying over generations. So that's my area. I mean, just a little bit without sounding like a sales pitch, but my platform that I've launched, which is a pre-revenue platform, is a startup, is geared primarily to support high street businesses. Stream was developed because our businesses in the high street are struggling right now. When it comes to page one presence on social media, it's a nightmare for a small business. When it comes to things like social media, as soon as you open your business, you're told you need to be on 5 or 6 social media platforms, which cost money, time, and resources to manage. So Stream is a new way to support that small business, giving them instant exposure in their local town in real time. And at the moment, I have about 170 businesses that have signed up on the platform and over 130 consumers. So, and the reason why I'm talking about this is I am here. I developed this platform primarily to support that. So I'm really keen to, Kieran, in terms of how we can sort of, or your plans around taking that forward, and also listening to some, because I've got a list of issues that the businesses, because I spoke to the businesses myself. I pretty much signed up the first 100 businesses myself on the high street. So I walked down Linthrop Road, I walked down Albert Road, I walked down in Stockton, Norton. And so I have a lot of information in terms of feedback and the challenges that small businesses are facing, more so black people in business. So yeah, so I would come in from that point of view in terms of exact strategy. And why would I vote for you from a small business point of view or somebody thinking about setting up a business?
And time scales.
Yes, that's it.
Okay.
Well, the first thing I do, Maurice, without question of doubt, is sit down with you one-on-one and or one-on-one or with other people that you want to bring in to the meeting and just get all of as much of your knowledge into my head as possible from your experiences so that we can then make a plan. And I think it's about seeing what the challenges are immediately in the community first, from a business from an existing business owner perspective, but also for people wanting to get into business. And then, as you rightly say, identifying the various stages of that journey for both sets of people, and then putting together a realistic timescale. And I think, I would be, if the election's on Thursday, maybe if I win, I'll enjoy a couple of glasses of champagne, and then we'll be right back. We'll be right at it. It's not going to be. It's not going to be, oh, you don't hear from, I'm on holidays and you don't hear from me for months. I'm right onto this. Look, I'm fully committed to what I say, and I think it's a case of sitting down and saying, right, we've identified a number of businesses on the high street, for example, that are struggling or whatever it might be, that you identify, and then seeing where my network and my expertise and my knowledge of the area of processes can help what you've already started. Look, I'm not here to restock. You're on your own journey, and it's unbelievable what you're doing. I mean, I haven't actually heard of anyone else doing something like what you're doing, and I think it's fabulous. So how can I help you? And then how can you help me with kind of my idea for entrepreneurs, particularly with linking, and I think it's important to do this, linking VCs that are African entrepreneur focused either on the African continent or in the UK. There are both, and Noy and Prince are well connected in that space, and seeing if over a very reasonable time frame, that could be a few months, even 6 months. I don't see why we couldn't do it quicker. And this is where my network will come into play. We can put together some sort of trial fund where there's investors say, right, I like what you're doing. I know who you are. I've got confidence in you, talking about myself, yourself, Maurice, and others that we bring to the table, and saying, right, there's a pot of money. You now run a competition we can start it with 5, 10, 15 businesses where we allocate a proportion of funding to each, but then we provide the support network as well, the mentorship, and we take them through that journey. And we can see, I think, after a year and a half, how these businesses have developed. And of course, then it becomes a case of re-raising the money for those businesses and then for new ones. And it's a snowball effect. If we can get 2 or 3 businesses to be successful over a 2-year period. Look, I'm thinking long term. I'm thinking 10, 15, 20, 30 years. Each term is just 5 years. But if we can have a track record after 5 years of a couple of successful businesses, plenty more in the pipeline, and plenty more that are at some stage of that journey, I mean, that would be unprecedented from a Middlesbrough MP's point of view. Which other Middlesbrough MP in the last 50 years, and I appreciate we haven't had the same demographics in 50 years, but is really engaged with the business community, particularly the Black business community to say, what can we actually achieve together? And that's what I propose to do. And we would absolutely right. We judge this at every stage. We'd have metrics to see how we performing, and we'd be our own harshest critics, I think, Maurice, and we'd make sure that the system was working as efficiently as possible. But I think that's what excites me most, being part of that journey.
Excellent. Yes, and also I think there is 1 or 2 programs at the moment. I don't know if you heard of the Tees Valley Labs, which is an initiative that Ben Houchin has introduced or are part of the UK Shared Prosperity Fund. And they're also trying to do something along those lines, but it's generic at the moment.
Yeah.
It's Stream has actually been shortlisted. I got the email yesterday, so it's part of an incubator accelerator program. That is, it's the first of its kind in Tees Valley, where you get paid to work to perfect your project, and then you get another lump sum at the end. So this is generic. This was launched about a month ago, and it's meant to start, I think, in about a couple of weeks' time. And this is part of, again, but this is generic. I want something along those lines, exactly what you said, Kieran, focusing on the Black community. That connection is bridging that gap. It's giving that opportunity to the Black community. That's what we're here for. We want to hear those stories. We want to hear that sort of pledge that you said. And,
I'll just elaborate briefly, Maurice. My mother got remarried, and she's my sister. She had a daughter. So my sister, from my mother's second relationship, is Jamaican, half Indian. So my sister's father is Jamaican, and he came to the UK in, I think, 2002, and he benefited from mentors in the this was in London, the Jamaican community, the Jamaican business community, particularly in the restaurant space, in London, who helped him in those early. It was a different world in the early 2000s. Tony Blair. I mean, it was a totally different world. Some things were easier, some things were more difficult, but he managed to set up his own food business, navigated the system, set up his food business, and became independent, financially independent, and someone who was able to create, to make his own way, and leave a legacy for my sister. And I think that inspired me in a number of ways. But it also meant that I've been close ever since I was in my early teens, since I was probably about 10 years old. I've been close to that sort of story, and particularly to the Black community that was in London, the Jamaican community in this instance, specifically. But I've understood where the challenges are. I've grown up with those challenges being talked about around the dinner table, and I think it's something that I do have a privileged insight into. So I do think we need to be more focused. I think Ben Houchin's done some really good stuff. I think we need to work with Ben Houchin. He's a guy that is pragmatic. He's a guy that has vision. He has track record. He's a guy that says he does what he says he's going to do. So I want to work with him, and I'm afraid, Andy, and it's not nice to talk about someone who isn't here to defend himself, but I would, and I don't want to do that, but I would say that Andy McDonald has time and again proved that he will not work with Ben Houchin just to score political points, and that isn't good enough.
Fantastic. Right. I think maybe it's a good time now to take a couple of questions or so from the audience.
Yeah.
Do we start with, has anyone got any questions for around the business?
Yeah, we've got Pastor Sam Best.
Yeah.
Oh,
He's raising up his hand for a long time.
Okay.
oh, sorry, I'm technologically challenged. I didn't know that I raised my hand. So when he was saying Sam, Kiran was saying Sam, I didn't understand because I didn't know when I pressed a raised hand. But I'm very interested in business, and I would like to liaise with Maurice and see how we can take things forward.
Amazing.
Excellent.
That's great.
And by the way, are we going to get some sort of
I think we have someone else. I'm proud
Yeah.
African who has been raising up his hand for some time now.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, this is Ola speaking. Thank you.
You're a proud African. You're welcome.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Kiran. Actually, I joined late, but I was opportune to part of your opening remarks, and I was so keen to hear some words. Can you hear me?
You can continue.
Yeah.
Okay. I was so impressed to hear some of your remarks, opening remarks, but I have a concern, and I would like you to be honest with this. You talk about Andy McDonald, you talk about Ben Auchin. How well do you know these two individuals? And secondly, how long have you been a member of Conservative Party? And in the regards of immigration, you talk about fighting to protect the identity of our local communities. And in one of your flyers, you also talk about you will fight in Parliament for an immigration system that protects our communities along conservative colleagues. Will you do this? And if yes, does that mean you were so happy or in line or in agreement with the rate at which conservatives have handled issue around immigration in the last couple of years? For record purpose, it has disunity kind of families. There are a lot of dependents family that came here legally, but they could no longer have access to remain. In fact, there's going to be a lot of separation. There's going to be a lot of breakage in homes. Does this really what you are proud of and what you wish to continue to work along with your colleagues to tackle?
Yeah, let me just take that one head on. Thanks for that, for those questions. And no, as I said earlier on this call, I want to distance myself from some of those conservative policies, particularly around making it more difficult for dependents to stay. I think that's very, very appalling. So I'm just making that totally clear. If you come to this country, contribute to this country, and you're a good, hardworking person who doesn't, who pays taxes, doesn't get into trouble, and contributes to the cultural diversity of our communities, and is a good person, I think absolutely your family should be able to stay here. I mean that is a non-starter for me, and I think it's. I regret, in fact, that it is a symptom of the Conservative Party losing its own identity over a number of years and finding that in order to appease people on the right, on the far right, they feel they need to make concessions on immigration policy, but then they make the wrong call. And because they haven't got a control over illegal immigration, which I've talked about, because the numbers of illegal immigrants is getting out of hand and is ballooning every summer. You see the boats coming over. We're getting 500,000 illegal immigrants a year. Because they haven't got a handle on that, they then punish the people who've come here legally, and that is the problem. They don't distinguish. So I think immigrants have built this country. I have absolutely I want to make it clear, I have absolutely no issue with immigration at all. When I talk about protecting identity of communities, I mean particularly I'm talking about the pressure on our infrastructure. I'm talking about the pressure on our NHS, the pressure on our housing system, the pressure on our education system. Because if we don't plan for immigration, if we don't know who's coming to the country, and we don't build our societies in a phased way around a plan, then we can't cope. And we have in the Northeast, particularly Teesside, we have 10 times as many asylum seekers as anywhere else in the country, and that's because the government in London sees that the housing is cheaper, the hotels are cheaper, and the asylum seekers come up here temporarily, although because the Home Office isn't able to process claims very quickly, they end up staying a long time, they can't work, and we have all sorts of issues around that. So look, I just want to make that clear. I hope that is clear. I'm talking about pressures. When I talk about protecting the identity of communities, I'm talking about pressures on our infrastructure where we live locally, which I'm sure you can appreciate. And I do want to distance myself from conservative policy that has made it difficult for dependents to stay here, because I do not agree with that. And to take your first question, which was on how well do I know the two individuals, Andy McDonald and Ben Houchen. Andy McDonald, I've only met him twice. I met him last week on Wednesday at a Nigerian community event at the church in Middlesbrough, just off Linthorpe Road, which was a great experience for me because I was able to debate with Andy and we were able to answer the same question. I think it was a very constructive evening. I really enjoyed it. I just wish we'd had another hour or so, maybe 2 hours and some beers. But anyway, that was good because it was a nice warm evening. But Andy, look, I will say in Andy's absence, he's a principled man. I think Andy McDonald is a principled man. I just think that his ideas and my ideas are worlds apart. Andy is an old school socialist of the 1970s, 1980s mold. That's his politics. He's a union man. He doesn't, I don't think he understands the power of business in the way that I do. I don't think he understands what it means to give someone a hand up rather than a hand out. And I think his politics is all wrong. Totally, which is why I'm opposing him and I stand against him. But I do think he's a principled man. I think if you cut him in half, he's the same both sides. So I don't want to criticize him. I just want to really say that our worldviews are different, and that's the beauty of. I think that should be the beauty of our democracy. Is that you have a choice. You've heard me. You've seen Andy. He's been in charge for 12 years. You can judge him by his record. What's he done for Middlesbrough? Do you think it's good enough? Has he banged the drum for Middlesbrough in Parliament? Has he been our flag bearer? That's for you to decide. You've seen what you've seen what I'm offering. Ben Houchen, I know a little bit better. So Ben is a real supporter of my campaign. Ben has endorsed me. He's written a letter to residents on my behalf. Ben has done a video for me as well. And I've met him on a number of occasions, and I have no issue whatsoever with saying that we'll be able to work together. So that's Ben Houchen. It's a relationship that I want to develop, of course, with Andy. I'm hoping that that I can beat him, and then that will be Andy either doing something else or that's up to him. But yeah, that's what I can say.
Right. I was going to add, it's just another issue here. I think we mentioned a little bit about the immigration issues. But recently also I've spoke to individuals who normally say there's this sponsorship scheme, which basically says an employer has to apply for this sponsorship, I understand, and it costs so much. And they have to justify why they're going to employ somebody not from this country. And I think the word was the figure was something like 26 or 30,000 before you need to the job has to be a gross salary of about 30 grand, I think, for it to pass the test. So I'm just wondering, that really restricts individuals, to find, first of all, a company that has to fork out that amount of money in order then to justify them employing you as an immigrant. So do you have what sort of plans have you got around that in terms of making it easier for individuals who've graduated here to stay on after the graduation?
Yeah, no, I think it's another great question, Boris. And I think Noy and I and Prince can speak about this because when we studied together on our MBA, there's a lot of people facing exactly the same challenges. People who've graduated in the UK. In fact, Noy, being a Ghanaian citizen and knowing the experience of many other Africans who graduated from Oxford University with a Master in Business Administration who found it very difficult. What do you want to just maybe chip in here?
Yeah, sure. It's an interesting question, Maurice, and I think a lot of people are still struggling with that because, like you said, it's the 30,000 threshold. I think from my point of view, it's helpful in terms of people coming from a postgrad experience because typically a lot of the jobs will meet that threshold. But for those who don't, then you have to explore the other options. And right now, myself, I'm looking at something called the Global Talent Visa, which is if you have, a tech background or you have some sort of sales leadership, then you can apply for the visa. But I think really what needs to be done is just making the process transparent because the skilled worker visa is the 30,000 threshold that you mentioned, but there are other options, and this is only one that I mentioned, the global talent. And I think really what needs to be done, and I mean, I've had chats with Kieran about this, is just making the whole process a bit more transparent. And so letting people know what their various options are when they can't meet that minimum threshold. So it's something that I think a lot of people are facing. Unfortunately, depending on your level of education or your background, there may be easier avenues. But I think the essence here is really just making the whole process a bit more transparent and having a wide selection of options available for someone looking for sponsorship. But it's something that right now I'm literally going through the same thing. So yeah, it's top of my mind as well.
And thanks for that, Noy. I'll just add to that as well. We talked, Maurice, in the business setting about pathways and mentorship and support networks. I think taking people through that process and having each graduate, for example, from Teesside University, having someone or a group that they can talk to about shared experiences and having people there, so they're not just feeling like they're left alone, and also speaking to businesses, local businesses, about engaging with the community. I mean, it doesn't take, you don't need me to tell you that we've got generational unemployment amongst the white community in Middlesbrough, where we've had grandfather, father, son unemployed, sitting at home. And we know the areas where this is very prevalent on benefits. And that is a cycle that they can't get out of. And I think there's a lot of employers, myself included, where we've got a serious skill shortage. Our biggest challenge as an employer, Pickering's Lifts, is finding skilled workers who, one, have skills, and we put them through apprenticeship programs. We put people through their training. We fully commit to the people that we hire at whatever stage they are. But it's also then finding people that are motivated to do those jobs and actually want to work hard and are reliable. So I think just connecting the dots and just saying to employers, you know what, actually, there's a whole pool of people here with great skills, from marketing to engineering to whatever it might be, to sales leadership, to say, do you know about these people? And it's a case of, like lots of things, it's a case of PR, it's a case of marketing, and it's a case of just building those relationships. But there's nothing that we can't overcome. And I think, I don't know what government's going to be in power. I don't know how this threshold will be reduced or made higher. And I don't know how that will look, particularly for sponsorship, for sponsorship pathways. But whatever the system is and whatever laws are made, I can promise that I will work with the community to get the best out of it. I don't know what that's going to be, but we'll do our best.
Okay. Yeah, I think don't forget we've got Ray. You wanted to ask a question.
Yes, I've got a question. Okay, thank you for giving me the platform. I've got a question to ask Kieran. If I said it correct, is the name Kieran, right?
Kieran, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, Kieran, I want you to define what you call an illegal immigrant, number one. Number two, in asking you this question, I've just come from a debate that we had in Chicago, where people mainly are of African descent that are coming via Libya, and there's a lot of slavery that is happening
in Libya, and these people are coming via boat because of the persecution that they are facing in Libya. And when they arrive here, I don't care how they arrive, the journey is really tiresome, it's really bad. And then when they land here, they are then classified as illegal immigrants. How do you define that? Because these are people that are running away from persecution, and when they land here, they are still facing the same problems within their journey. So could you please explain what you really call an illegal immigrant?
Happily. I mean, thank you very much for that question. For me, the people that you've just described are asylum seekers. And I think they're not illegal immigrants, they're asylum seekers whose claims should be processed. I mean, this country, the UK, has an extraordinary record, an outstanding record throughout history in accommodating asylum seekers and integrating asylum seekers into this country. You go through the Second World War and before that and after, and we have a proud record to uphold. And I think the issue that we face is in processes, and it's in the Home Office's capacity to process asylum seekers' claims. And this is the concern. We don't have the infrastructure, and there's all sorts of root causes for this at the moment to be able to deal with the volume. So I want to be totally clear. In the instances that you've just described, these people are asylum seekers, and they need our hospitality and our warmth, and they need our care, and they need to be taken in with open arms. I'm referring to people who come to this country under the auspices or under the guise of being asylum seekers, but are in fact economic migrants. And there are huge numbers of economic migrants coming, particularly from Albania. We had 75,000 last year. For example, these people are not asylum seekers. They're here to get involved, particularly in organized crime, to deal drugs, and to human traffic people. So that's a distinguished. I'll just make that difference there.
Right. Do you have any other question from anyone?
Yeah, I was going to add, it's again, it's just an issue around police, it's crime. So again, this affects everyone, but there's also issues around when certain things happen to Black people, whether they are walking down the streets or in a park or something, when I speak to some of them, they just say, there's nothing I can do about this. They just let it go. And what happens, it doesn't go. You can't lie to yourself. It builds up and it goes to your head, whether it's mental health issues, whether it's other things. So is there anything you've got in place to assist with either whether it's a reporting process or just to help the individuals feel safer, or at least feel that they can rely on the system in terms of what will be done should they report it, whether it's anonymously or something, because there is that kind of giving up, young yobs on the street, abusing, whether it's racial slurs or whether it's whatever it is, it's happening almost on a daily basis. And the individuals don't do anything because they believe, or literally they know that nothing will be done about it. And this now again pushing into the Black community. It could be international students that have just arrived, that they're struggling to find the feet around, and then they experience some of this and they don't know what to do. Is there anything in place that you can, or you can let us know or tell us that you any policies around that, or your action plans around anything on that?
That's rich. I mean, that's one of the biggest challenges I think that our society faces. And it is all about education for me. I think all of these things need to be solved through education, starting when kids are young in school. And we can talk about curriculum, and we can talk about how we do that, and absolutely, but that's a very long-term process. And I do think the UK has made strides. There's so much further to go, but versus even parts of Western Europe, I think we do have a good history of integration, and a good history of tolerance, and a good history of racial harmony, but particularly in areas of white deprivation, white working class deprivation, particularly in places like Middlesbrough, as I've said, we have these tensions heightened. Now, the only policy that I can speak about with any confidence that I would advocate for, and I know that is being talked about, is neighborhood community policing. So each neighborhood at a sort of micro level will have a named police officer that can be contacted through contacted much more easily, more directly, rather than through an automated line, about any sort of issue or ongoing concern that a resident might have. So I think that will instill more confidence in residents in the police, in terms of actually caring, and in terms of having the impression that their voices are being heard. Now, how that translates then into a prosecution, or into a crime reference being raised, or into into the next stage of the legal process, I actually don't know. And I think that's something that we'll have to build. I have to be totally honest with you. I don't know how that's going to play out. I think it's a good starting point. I think there's a long way to go. But will I look into it, and will I do I want to work with people to make something of the system? Yes. It's just a really difficult one.
Yeah, sorry, before we move on, there are these two questions that I would quickly like to ask you. Recently, should I say in about 2 or 3 years ago, the Black community in Middlesbrough, we have faced a big, very significant challenges around social services issue, where children are taken somehow without following the due processes. And the question is, because what would you do differently when you win? That's one. Secondly, recently, we have an issue with like I said, majorly Nigerian community in the TSA University. They had issue recently, and I was told that this issue was brought across to the authority, to the council, but it looks like nothing was done about it. So what would you do if you win to support these people and this community on issues like that, social services, and the people that are migrating to this area?
Yeah, well, let's take that first one first to see that. I mean, that's it's harrowing. I mean, that's some of the most emotionally disturbing things that can happen in society, is when children are taken away from their parents. Now, there's two things to say. One is only a judge in a court of law can determine whether a child has legally been taken away from their parent. That's a judgment call by a judge. I can't put myself in the position of a judge. That's just the way our system works here. And I think that's the right way. And I would hope that only in the most extreme circumstances does this happen. And I would also hope that there is training in place, or at least awareness engagement classes for people coming to this country with children, who can understand through taking part in these community classes and with designated social workers, that we have different laws and different rules here. So some behaviors that are acceptable in other countries are not acceptable here. One might be smacking your child on the bum. I mean, that is something that was acceptable in this country only 20 years ago, but now isn't. And that's just how the law changed. So therefore, we need to understand that not everyone coming to this country understands what is legally acceptable, what isn't. So I think that might help. I mean, I don't know whether that's a particular issue, but I can imagine that that's the sort of thing where a parent who is parenting in a certain cultural style, I mean, that is familiar to us, but perhaps not familiar to the British social service system, may get into trouble or get into hot water. So I think, again, education is the key, and education is the answer. Let's make sure that parents understand where the boundaries are so that they don't get into trouble. That might be leaving a kid on its own for 10 minutes, which, again, we might not have a problem with, but it's seen differently through a different eye, through different eyes, through a different lens. So I think that's important. And as I say, I can only make sure that the social workers and social services understand the cultural differences, so they understand how to bridge the gap when they're talking to people from different communities, different cultures, about what is and isn't acceptable, so they don't feel that they're in a difficult position themselves, because a lot of social workers are also from African countries or elsewhere. So making sure that they're not in a compromised position. And then, of course, just to make the point again, that ultimately, as an MP, I can't make a call on this that is decided in a court of law, and of course those things are separate powers. The second point, and by all means come back to me on any of the points I've just made, even afterwards. I'd like to talk about that further, because it is also the first time I'm hearing about this issue in particular, and it is, I heard about it a little bit last week, but properly this week, and it is something of real concern. So let's talk about that further. And the second issue you raise about Teesside University, I mean, look, ultimately, it's not the fault of the students at Teesside University that the Naira has devalued. I think this is the core of this particular issue. People come here, they make sacrifices in their home country, whether that is selling property, whether that's selling businesses, whether that's taking loans from the family, from the bank. They make sacrifices to come to the UK, to embark on a new life with good intentions, and economic affairs that are out of their control make things difficult. Economic realities make things difficult. So I think we need patience. And Teesside University is more than happy to take your money, is more than happy to charge you an arm and a leg in order to give you your qualification or whatever it might be. But they're not so happy to provide the support when they need to. As far as I can see, as far as my understanding is concerned. So I think there just needs to be a little bit of leeway, and there needs to be a review, which takes place just on the fairness of the system, because I think people don't come here with bad intentions, and we need to support people when things that are out of their control go against them.
All right. Thank you. I'm proud African.
Silicon.
Thank you very much. Thank you once again, Kiran. I just want to acknowledge your courage in standing up in this election. There's no harm in trying, but what I believe is that it's either we vote for you or we vote for Andy McDonald this election. No other candidate. Okay, but whatever the outcome of this election, will you still be willing to engage with the whole community, particularly African voice needs to be heard? That's number one. Number two, I asked you, probably you omitted it, how long have you been a member of Conservative Party?
Yes.
And I was surprised when you were answering one of the questions, you said you only met Andy recently.
Mm-hmm.
If you met Andy recently, what's the hope of we? And when last have you hit African Nigerian jollof rice? Have you ever tasted? Have you ever tasted once?
Right.
If
So
not, if not, that means you are not too visible. Then, if you are elected, you need to be more visible. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Right, let me just okay. So there's a few questions there. I joined the Conservative Party in 2019, so I've been a member 5 years. So that was that one. I'll come to the jollof at the end. So hold on. What were the other questions? Briefly. Oh, will I remain visible and someone who wants to work with the community supporter? Will I be
Yeah,
someone?
you win, yeah.
Yeah,
Or the other one.
irrespective of whether I win or lose. Yes, absolutely. I mean, these are good things to do, and I want to do that. The only thing I don't know, my business isn't moving. I hope I can pass my business on. I'm going to be here on Teesside, whether you like it or not. The question is going to be where my political future goes. You know, whether I look to stand elsewhere and what that means. But I think, you know, what I can assure you is that yes, I will be around and I will be doing my best in whatever capacity that is to help out and to be visible and to continue these conversations. You're absolutely right to say that there's only two candidates, myself and Andy McDonald. There are 7 candidates, but there are only 2 candidates that can win. And there are only 2 real serious candidates. I think that's important to say. The other candidates are not serious. I only met Andy McDonald last week. That is not uncommon, I don't think. It's not something to be concerned about. As I say, I'm new to politics. I have plenty of things that occupy me. I've lots of things to do, both from a campaign point of view, talking to people, and business from a business point of view. And actually, it's not a concern about whether I could win or not, because I've run an incredibly hard-fought and professional campaign that has comprised many elements: literature delivery, address letter delivery, social media, community events. I have 3 full-time employees working on my campaign. I personally have I've self-financed this campaign with my own money. I work every hour of the day. I've knocked on 10,000 doors across the constituency. I've had countless conversations. I've revisited people. I've helped them with local issues. Andy McDonald, as far as I'm aware, is very complacent about his position. That is abundantly clear because 1, he has an 8,500 majority, which is comfortable in his eyes. 2, Labour is winning in the national polls. Okay, and 3, he has the comfort of being the incumbent. He has been the MP for 12 years. Of course, he knows more people than I do. Of course, he's older than I am. Of course, he knows more people. Of course, he's had more community events. That's to be expected. But what he does not do is work as hard as I do. I can guarantee you that. Andy McDonald has not had the same number of conversations that I've had in the same period of time. He's not made the progress that I've made in the same period of time. And he won't make the progress that I will in the same period of time if I win. So I'm not concerned about what Andy McDonald does. I'm just concerned about what I do. And I know that this is going to be incredibly close. I know that because of the people I've spoken to. I know that because of the data I've got from my team, speaking to people on the doors, my volunteers. I've got 12 volunteers that help me out on a daily basis. And I know this is going to be close, and I'm putting everything into it. So Andy can do what he does, I do what I do, and I think the proof will be in the pudding, or the proof will be in the jollof. So I have had jollof rice on a number of occasions. I love it, and I'm sorry to say, Noi. No, I'm not going to say it. I was about to say the Nigerian one's better than the Ghanaian one. I don't know. I don't know. The truth is,
I'll log off right now, Kieran.
I can tell you.
I wanted to ask that. Which one have you had? Is it the Ghanaian one or the Nigerian one?
I like it. I like it hot. I love it, but even more than the jollof, I love the tilapia fish. I like that hot. I like it spicy, and I like the suya. I think that is a Nigerian, because the tilapia, the Ghanaians do that as well, but the suya is Nigerian, and I like that. And I like to wash it all down. I love the strong Guinness, the African export Guinness. That one. That one is nice, and I would like to have one of those with all you guys and girls at some point.
I will only advise you don't take it until you finish your elections. So
Yeah, I know.
Exactly.
As I always say, that one isn't for small boys, but I do enjoy it. But no, please do let me know if that was clear. But yeah, I hope that answers your questions.
Yeah, I have one question for you, please.
Mm-hmm.
Go on, Ochiko.
Yeah, Ochiko. Yeah, good evening, everyone. I'm happy to be here. Mr. Karian, I'm happy to see you again. I think the second time we're meeting, you came over on Sunday to my church, and I remember I told you that because you are even a handsome man, I already like you, you know. So what I want to say is this. While you were talking, you talked about politicians making bogus promises and eventually they don't keep it. First, I want to ask, this is your first public office that I believe, I hope with you, because I really want you to be there. This is your first office that you are going to hold. That is the first question. Is it the first office public office you are going to hold?
Yes.
Then the second question would be, politics has got to do with, I think, character. Do you think in your own, because you are the one that's going to be there, it's going to be a hot seat. Every other politician that has made bogus promises, like you said, and they don't keep it, are you sure when you get there, are you sure there is nothing on that seat that make them not to keep it? And is that thing not going to affect you? That is what I want you to candidly look into our eyes and tell us. The way you're talking, you're very confident. Yes, I like it. You sound honest. You sound truthful. Yes. But are you sure? Have you sat down to think about it? That I hope what makes them not to keep their promises won't make me too not to keep the promises. And if you have thought about it, what measures are you going to take? Like one of our brothers said, now I hope after you are there, you know, the next thing is that I'm very busy, I'm not able to see this or see this. That's where their own promises starts failing. So have you looked at it? Because you have to start seeing yourself as a winner already, and now you are going to operate. Thank you.
Very reasonable question. Yeah, look, as I say, you go into these things with the best intentions. I don't. This will be, if I win, this will be the first public office that I hold. Correct. I think everyone goes into politics with with a sort of vision of what they want to do, and the realities are sometimes more difficult. Whether that's the realities of your own party or the national picture, you find yourself confined and unable to deliver. I don't know what that's like. I haven't been in that position, so I can only look at this with these rose. You know, I can look at this in a sort of with boyish enthusiasm. I look at the future and I think I can do all of these things, and it's going to be great. I don't know how it's going to turn out, but that is why I appreciate it. It is going to be difficult. There are going to be constraints. I am going to have to maybe make compromises, but that is why I have limited my pledges to things that are in my control, or at least that I think are in my control at this point. And that is why, for example, removing the cycle lanes on Linthorpe Road, or saving the transporter bridge, for example, or advocating for better access for dependents. But that is why I say I will work with Ben Houchen, because Ben Houchen has proven time and again that he can deliver on things that he promises. And I'm sure that together we're stronger. And I will work with I will work with the council. The council is Labour. I will work with the council to deliver on things that are good for the community, whether that's an initiative from Labour or an initiative from the Conservatives. It doesn't matter. If it delivers for people, we need to work together. And there's too much, it's too bipartisan sometimes. We need to work together. But I don't know. The truth is, I don't know what the government in London, probably a Labour government, let's be honest, we've seen the polls, it's probably going to be a Labour government. If I win in Middlesbrough and Thornaby East, I'll be a Conservative politician working with Ben Houchen on regional affairs and doing a great job here, banging the drum, bringing investment to Middlesbrough and jobs. I don't know what national policy will be. I don't know what Labour's policy on crime will be, or Labour's policy on tax, or Labour's policy on defence. So things that are international, wars abroad, taxation, all these things. I don't know whether my views and my beliefs and what I want will necessarily be manifested. But that's why I don't talk about those things necessarily. I talk about what I can achieve. And just to put that into context, Andy MacDonald, who's been the MP for 12 years, Andy MacDonald failed to mention Middlesbrough, his constituency, in Parliament for 3.5 years. And that's proven by the parliamentary records called Hansard. You can look at parliamentary records and you look at what each politician, because everything they say in Parliament is recorded. And you can look at MacDonald's record. He didn't even mention his constituency. He's paid every year handsomely to represent this community, this constituency in London, and he wasn't even able to do that. Look, I think from a personal point of view, I will do everything I can. I've limited my pledges to things that I think I can control. Of course, the reality may be different, but I'll be honest about it at every stage.
Excellent. I think, how long have we got now? Got 18 minutes. Is there anyone else who's got any more questions?
I just wanted to clarify with Kieran whether he's asserting that that his constituency is bigger than his vision.
No, if I understand your question, Sam, I am look, it's time for change in Middlesbrough. It's absolutely time for change. And I'm a 30-year-old guy. I have good experience, I have good I'm ambitious, I have good energy, and I'm willing to work hard. Now, where I think I can go, I don't know. But Thornaby East is for me the starting point to do all sorts of good. And that's how I see it. And this is my hometown. I was born here. My vision is, we've talked a little bit about some of the things I want to do, but my vision for this town is to absolutely restore pride in the town, pride in ourselves, and pride in our civic institutions, because over the last 50 years, the town has gone downhill. So let's start with that. I think that's big enough. If we can reverse that decline, improve where we live, we can then point to that to everyone else around the country and say, look what we've achieved, and then we can move forward and do all sorts of things. But there's a lot to be getting on with.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, Kieran, I think I'm speaking for majority here, that what you said today, has gone down well with people in the group.
Absolutely.
I think it's important. I think what I've mentioned at the beginning in terms of that continuity, as I'm a proud African mention, is also about, if you don't win, I think, again, I speak on behalf of so many when they say we've just sort of met you. I think I just met you, it was a week ago. So if you don't win, I mean, elections are every 4 years. I think what I said at the beginning is about the traction. It's about, if we carry on doing what you said you're doing, or at least that relationship, I think there'll be a better chance. I'm not saying that you won't win on Thursday, but if you build that relationship, know, like, and trust the individuals in the group, and we work towards the points and the actions that you said, I think will be positive. And one thing you did say, and I will support you on this. When I met you last week, you did say to me, whether I win or not, Maurice, I would like to engage with you. So I took that point. So yeah, so yeah, to answer the question when somebody said, "Oh, will you carry on this if you don't win?" You did say that, and I hope you do. But the community here, we want those challenges solved. We want those problems. We want positive statistics. We want those numbers up for the Black community. We want all those positive stuff. And if you can assist with that process, you know, we're willing to engage, and thank you and good luck on Thursday.
Thank you. Thank you. Lekon's hand is on. I'm proud African. I know it's Lekon. Lekon, before you ask your question, I'm gonna ask you to do something before you unmute. Like I said before, most people do not like to vote. So every time we come on or put together programs like this, we always encourage people to go out and vote. So if you can just, you know, encourage people and tell them why they need to vote, not that they don't know, but, you know, just encourage people, that would be nice. Welcome.
Oh, thank you very much. Unfortunately, I'm very sorry. Apology again. I'm in a very place that could not be on camera. Please,
No
it's
problem.
not good. Please accept my apology. Now, with what you said, it is very obvious. Kiran is also aware and that vote is the only voice we've got.
Yeah.
Without voting, you can't complain. Shelley Chisholm, she said, you can't we pray complaining, standing on the sideline and saying something will change. It will never change. Now, from international student perspective, look at when they've come together, they voted, it's changed the electoral status quo of the university. But before, it's hardly you see people coming out.
Yeah.
Now, if these politicians also are aware that you are not going to vote, so why would they care about your community?
Mm-hmm.
So the only way you prove how powerful your community is by coming out to vote. I could remember the last election, council election, where there's a mobilization, where there's a door-to-door, where there's a campaigning out there.
Yeah.
With statistics, the proportion is there. And it's hardly you see any politician that wants to take our word lightly because they know it doesn't take time. Before you know now, if Kiran entered, if he doesn't do as he says, general election will come in again. We will let him know how powerful our voice are. And if he does, then he will be rest assured that, yeah, there are votes out there. The same thing with all the other candidates. So there is no mathematical equation in it. The truth is your voice is your vote is your voice, is your power. On that note, I want to encourage every one of us, though it's too late now, because I believe we all want to make a life means. We want to work, we want to get paid, we want to get money to care for our family. Most people might say they are on shift on that day, they are working on that day. If we have done this earlier, probably, though we have encouraged people to do postal votes, because postal votes is at your ease.
Yeah.
Majority of people have started voting now. They've got their poster posted to their house. They just fill it, drop it. But for those of you that you are working 7 to 7, don't worry. Just do something, commitment. Have that mind that you want to vote. There's no time you come back, you won't be able to vote. It's open 7 a.m. and closes 10 p.m. So if you are able to vote before 7, by start 7 a.m. on your way to work, fine. It doesn't take 1 minute, 1 to 2 minutes. Not the way you go in Africa, you queue 30 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours. No. And when you are coming back from work, just branch vote, and go home.
Absolutely.
By Friday, latest Saturday, we know who is our prime minister.
Yes.
And we know who is our MP. Thank you.
Thank
But
you.
we are together. Whatever the result is, we are one.
Absolutely. Quickly, Jude. Jude, Anim.
Okay, yeah. Thank you so much. Mine is not really a question because I've asked most of the questions I want to ask Kiran one-on-one before. So the point is, I just want to encourage. Sorry about my position because I'm actually on my way to work. So I just want to encourage everyone, especially Kiran, to maintain the flow. I like the kind of energy that Kiran is using to at least express and analyze this whole thing. And that is part of what most of my colleagues whom we met on Sunday, because on Sunday we're going from church to church, and then most of my colleagues who I later met at work, they are very enthusiastic and they are actually pleased, to meet Karen, and they have also promised to, pass on the messages. Like even on that one, I think most of the flyers that I took home to Fenabe, and I was able to share most of them. So some of them actually are yearning. Some persons are actually yearning for a change, and more so it's very, very important what the crusade Karen did on Sunday actually paid off, and I believe that in election nobody's vote is useless. Every vote counts, and that effort on Sunday actually paid off because the the number of persons we met have been able to also pass on the message across to families and friends and others. So I believe if we all here too can extend that same kind of energy to others, I think Kenya will go a long way. I think as it is now, I don't want to say yes or no. I believe in yes. I know Kenya can do it. He's young, he's energetic, and with all of us behind him, I think something positive will happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jude. Thank you. Thank you. Lekon, is that a legacy hand, or do you have something else to say?
I have a question, but you asked me to say something before my question.
Oh, all right. Go on.
Okay, thank you. This might be my last question if there's no time. Yeah. I love statistics, and I've sat on many scrutiny panels in my role as a member of hate crime in Crown Protection Service, advisor in independent policing. My concern is this, and I have to take it back to your work, because Kiran, you just mentioned recently that, and the McDonald record speak for itself, that from not mentioning his constituency in parliament for over 3.5 years. I know there are a lot of local campaign, there are a lot of national issues, and I usually follow up, but I don't know where that statistics come from. And I don't know if you can please send that, number one. Number two, you are an experienced business leader, and you are proud to be a director of Stockton-based Pickering Lifts, and also chairman of Darlington-based IT firm. In these two key, which are very, very economical prospects business, can you tell us what is the staff recruitment level of diversity, workforce? What is the workforce representation of that, and how many Africans you met on daily basis in your workplace? If not, why? If not, when? If not, how are you going to improve that from your records? And what have you done?
Okay, thank you.
Sure. So just to your first question first, the statistic about Andy MacDonald not mentioning his constituency in Parliament for 3.5 years comes from parliamentary records. So each time a Member of Parliament speaks in Parliament, there is an official record made of their contribution. And this is documented in an official record-keeping book called Hansard, which is available publicly. So you can see in that record, if you search MacDonald's contributions, the 3.5 long years went by without him mentioning Middlesbrough. And this is a claim that he does not dispute. I made this claim, it's not a claim, I asserted this fact last week in a public debate, which he did not challenge. The other thing that MacDonald didn't challenge is when I made it clear in our debate last week that he had used, I would say abused, parliamentary privilege to allege corruption at the Teesworks site that Ben Houchen had been overseeing. Now, in Parliament, if you make claims against someone, you are in a privileged position in that you are protected against any libel claims. So you can say, it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing. It's a good thing for our democracy when used correctly, that you have the comfort in Parliament, speaking in the Parliament, to say, to name people, to say things that otherwise you may legally not be in a position to do, because it's a good thing for transparency, for democracy. Now, MacDonald used that position in Parliament to allege claims that were proven to be untrue, proven in an independent report to be untrue, and he never apologized. And of course, he never repeated the claims in public, because then he would be in legal hot water. So that's just two little things to point at MacDonald's record. Now, the second question about diversity in my businesses, so across the group of businesses, our male to female diversity is very good. 50% across most of the businesses. The engineering group slightly lags behind because engineering, particularly lift and escalator maintenance and repair, is traditionally a man's job. Now, that is not, it doesn't need to be a man's job. It's just saying how it has been traditionally. We do have all sorts of pathways for women engineers to come through, and I'm very happy to say we've now got 3 on board. Of course, that is a very small percentage, but it is nonetheless 3. In terms of our Black representation, it's nowhere near what it should be. It is nowhere near what it should be. We have a handful of Black employees across all of our businesses, but amongst almost 700 employees in the UK across all of my businesses, would I say that the Black population of the UK is fairly represented? No, I wouldn't. We do have a number of very, very brilliant, well-qualified Black employees, but is it enough? No. I can get I don't want to say statistics that are perhaps not exactly correct. I can happily get that to you very quickly. What do we have in place in order to address this? And again, this is me answering these questions honestly. I would not at any point tell you something that I don't think is true in order to make a short-term gain in this conversation. That is not how I operate. What are we doing about this? Well, we've got a specific HR employee who you may call under diversity, equity, inclusion. I don't think that's a particularly useful term, because it means whatever it means, what it means to the person who is interpreting it. It's different for different people. So we do have a dedicated HR employee who does look to go to schools, particularly to recruit, and universities to recruit people into our workplace who will diversify our workforce. So it is an ongoing process. As a private limited company, which is under, we're a small to medium-sized business. We are, of course, under different pressures to big global corporations. So big global corporations have the luxury of having huge departments that can be focused specifically on the things that we're talking about, and they're not necessarily under the same financial pressures. Smaller companies have different economic realities, different business realities, and therefore need to be a little bit more agile in terms of their business processes and their operations, as I'm sure you'll appreciate. And therefore, quite rightly, we're not subject to the same strictures. But that doesn't mean we don't try, and that doesn't mean a more diverse workplace is a better workplace. So work in progress. Let me come back to you on the stats. But do I care about it? Absolutely.
Thank you.
I have something to add.
Look, oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, I want to thank Mr. Kiran. He made a very good pitch for his job. Only I'm just sad that he's pitching for this party. I don't like them because they don't like other people apart from their race. They're even attacking a lady who is now a Nigerian, Megan. I'm one of the Success Squad members, and she is being attacked day in, day out. And this party you belong to is not lifting a finger to stop the attack, the racial attack on her. We talk about racism. They are number one racist. I wish you are pitching for Labour Party. I will be very happy. But unfortunately, you are with this political party, which I tell you the truth, I don't like what they present to us as foreigners and migrants. They're even doing it to their princess. So to me, just a pity you belong to them, but you are a good person. I will vote for you if I see the paper for vote, just for you. Otherwise, I don't like the party you belong to. That's all I can say.
Thank you, man.
Take that as a compliment, and I'd love to speak to you about all the things that you raise individually. And as you point out there, Rosaline, thank you for that contribution. It is ultimately about the individual. There are good people who are Labour politicians. There are really, really good people in the Labour Party. There are good people in the Conservative Party. And what about we work together?
That's good.
Okay.
Look, man. Quickly,
All right.
look, man. We are running out of time. Yeah,
Okay, good evening, everyone. Good evening. Thank you to the organizers. Good evening, Iran. And I really appreciate all your put out here to our ears. So my question will be mainly on crimes in Middlesbrough. So, crimes such as, I put it as theft, yeah, stealing, and the likes of people that use drugs and the likes, drug users in Middlesbrough and stealing. How do you plan to make Middlesbrough a sane environment? They plan to do that.
Well, great question. This is the issue that affects us every day, and is the one that is of the most concern, I think, from a daily life point of view. I myself, only last week or maybe 10 days ago now, was witness to the most heinous crime. I mean, I was in Langridge Crescent, Park End, Grove Hill, really, and two boys got out of the car next to me, one with a machete or a long blade down his trousers, and the other one with a baseball bat behind his back, to run up to a kid and attack him. I mean, it was unbelievable. This was broad daylight. It's shocking what's going on the streets. Now, my job as a member of parliament will be to work with the police and crime commissioner on a daily basis, irrespective of Labour or Conservative, to work with them in the joint interest of our community, to make sure that, one, we have the resourcing, financial and human, police force, latest technology, drones, etc., to be able to combat crime the most effective way. And already I can say, under the last Police and Crime Commissioner, Steve Turner, we were able to increase the number of officers by 300. We were able to be the number one police force for arrests in the UK. We were in the top 5 for 999 response rates, and we were making progress. There is a long way to go, and unfortunately, the symptoms of crime are derived from social issues. So you see unemployment and lack of education being the drivers in the crime rates on the streets and social issues. So if we can address the root causes over the long period of time, we can start to see improvements. But as I said, I'm not sure if you heard earlier in the conversation, one of the things that I'd like to do is make sure that we've got neighbourhood policing in place, and I want to make sure that we are stricter on sentencing for really bad crimes, stricter on even petty crimes like shoplifting. I want to make sure that people who have ankle tags are properly monitored and tracked. And I want to make sure the police have more powers to deal with particularly the kids, adolescents that zoom around on these bikes, endangering children playing and making life unpleasant for pedestrians and shoppers. I think they're absolutely awful, terrorizing people. I want to make sure that our parks are cleaned up. I've been walking around the parks. I've seen drug paraphernalia. It's not, I wouldn't, I don't have children yet. I'd love to have children soon, but I'd like to make sure these parks are cleaned up before I take them there, because there's all sorts of unsafe objects in those parks and our green spaces that are meant to be at the heart of our communities. So I understand where the issues are. I want to work towards solving them. And as the MP, I'll be working with the Police and Crime Commissioner and the council at every opportunity to make sure we're working together.
Thank you.
Can I just add one small thing? It's just in relation to this the crime and CCTV. Is it possible? We got a big brother. We everywhere there's cameras, but to be quite honest, we wouldn't mind the cameras if there was more stats about arrests or convictions as a result of the CCTVs, on our streets. Because what's happening now, you tend to find that it's a volunteer or it's just somebody in the public that ends up capturing a very disturbing video that then leads to maybe an outpour on social media. Then obviously then the police takes that charge or something. So it's always that individual that takes that sort of chance. But I think it would be better if there were the public facing CCTVs that captures those incidences, gets those convictions up. And then we will say, actually, it's justifiable. But I think we do need more CCTVs on our streets that then would obviously justify the big brotherness if there is some positive income as opposed to individuals using their mobile phones to get justice.
Yeah, I mean, look,
Yeah.
that strikes. I mean, Maurice, there's a great point. I think that strikes at the heart of how people see the individual versus the state, and we can get into sort of political philosophy on that particular point. To what extent are we happy to be observed in order to secure our safety in our communities? But that's maybe a conversation for another time. I do think we need effective CCTVs policing, which actually works. I think often it doesn't, and actually leads to something. I think I agree with you on that.
Thank you.
Is that still time?
Sorry?
Is that still time for me to ask a question?
I've got about two. So I've got to run because my mother is expecting me, and you know what it's like when you're late to see your mother. So I've actually got 2 minutes.
We've taken all his time. We've even gone beyond the 2 hours now. So
Okay.
all we can say is, Kiran,
Yes,
thank you so much for being here. I know a lot of people are still at work. Some of them are going at work, but we had to just organize this as quickly as possible. We'll try and share it around, and we wish you good luck. And just before you go, I will let Mr. T and Morris just say 1 or 2 things before you go. Thank you so much, Kiran.
Oh, yes. Thank you so much, Kiran. You have done very, very well today. And we are so happy that we called and you came, you honored our invitation with so much respect. That thank you very much. And I will quickly say this, that you are welcome into the Black community. Don't worry, it's not only jollof rice that you are going to eat. There are lots and lots of foods that you will eat. I hope you are ready.
I'm ready. I'm excited.
And personally, I will be so happy sending invitations to you anytime we have anything to do. We just want you to, get closer to us. When you get closer to us, when you know us more, then I will leave the other hand for you to decide to know whether we are lovely people or we are not.
Thank
Yeah?
you. Thank you, Mr. T. Quickly, Morris.
Yeah, just to echo what everyone has said, Kieran, thank you so much for your time. I think you kind of convinced us. I think we know what we're gonna do on Thursday. Well done. And I am gonna go against everything. I'm not from Nigeria or Ghana. I'm from East Africa. I'm gonna fight for you. Say you come down, Uganda, Kenya.
Oh,
Um,
Morris is Uganda, Kenya, but he's my brother. He knows.
Yes.
He knows.
I was born in Uganda, grew up in Kenya. But let's all go and vote, everyone. And Kieran, excellent. We
Thank
love
you.
everything
Thank you
that
so
you said
much.
today. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Kieran, and try and take some
Bye.
rest, and we'll see you later. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you,
Bye.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.